It has hit the time in the show on Friday afternoon where we get a little bit of pop culture, a little taste of what's streaming, a little taste of sports, a little taste of the movies. He comes and he goes on a rainbow. That's right. Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster, everybody. Hi, Michael Snyder. How's it going?
It's going pretty well. Nice to see you, Mr. Rudnick. Kim, always a pleasure. I'm on the San Francisco side of my coastal commute, and so I am surrounded by pride flags and much joy and excitement. And I have to say, despite all the good feelings, I was brought down a little bit to learn that Donald Sutherland passed away yesterday, the day before, whenever it was. And I have a very brief Donald Sutherland anecdote, if you'll indulge me.
Please.
Absolutely.
So it's about a decade ago, and I'm in Los Angeles, and I'm going to a house party, a New Year's Eve house party. And it's in the area around Franklin and Hollywood Boulevard. And I stop off at the Gelson's at about 9 p.m. to pick up, libations, if you will. And I'm in line there, and there's an older gentleman in front of me. And it's a very chilly night, by the way. And there's an older guy in front of me, and he turns and he goes, "Man, it's surprisingly cold out." And I realize it's Donald Sutherland. And, I said, "Yeah, but most of the year we're pretty comfortable here in LA." He said, "That's very, very true." And I said, "Well, it's lovely sharing meteorological insights with you." And then I realized, and I restrained myself, this is the guy that plays President Snow in the Hunger Games movies. And I'm about to say something about, unexpected flurries, and I restrain myself. I'm thinking it's New Year's Eve. He's going to join his family. Anyway, we just parted company, but he was absolutely charming. It's kind of a little brush with greatness, as they used to say on the Letterman show.
I had a message from Mark. He texted me last night and he said, breaking, I have a Donald Sutherland story when I get back. He said, "You can tell everyone. I'll share it when I return. I did multiple episodes of a TV series and had some scenes with Donald Sutherland. So we'll look forward to that on Wednesday." Yeah. Very cool.
He was a very nice man. I think he was with one of his kids, not Kiefer, and their mate. And they had a, holiday party they were going to as well. Yeah. So it was really sweet. I just wanted to do a little aside. Speaking of Pride Month, Pride Week, the whole deal, tonight at the Oasis, south of Market in San Francisco, it's the Booty Pride Party.
The Booty Party.
Galore, mashups galore. No, come on. That means bootlegs. The theme is Dua Lipa versus Lady Gaga, and it'll be enhanced by, well, come on, it is Pride Month, the dragnificence of the Monster Show, and of course, DJ and hostess with the mostest mashes, Adriana A., and her partner, Jupiter Gatling, spinning the tunes. Very excited about that. And one more quick Pride Month reference, my current article in The Voice of San Francisco, accessible at thevoicesf.org, is all about Frameline and their LGBTQ plus film festival, which is ongoing right now. And I just wanted to do a little plug-ola there, guys.
I had the man who owns the Oasis on the show one time. We were talking about some issues with drag queen story time, that type of thing. Did you know that's I think it's what they call the largest drag venue in the United States?
It is. You're talking about Darcy Drollinger, who, by the way,
right. Yeah.
Got started in the Bay Area entertainment scene as one half of the new wave pop band Enrique, and has gone on to become San Francisco's drag laureate. If you're a San Franciscan, you know these things. I may spend a lot of time in LA, but come on, I bleed orange and black for my Giants, red and gold for my 49ers, and blue and gold for my Warriors. I am, my pronouns, Kim, him, he, San Franciscan.
There you have it. I
There
love
you
it.
go. I'm friends with a prominent drag performer up in LA. Are you familiar with sorry, up in San Fran? Michael, are you familiar with Peaches Christ? Peaches
Oh
Christ.
yeah, Joshua Grinnell.
Yes.
Joshua Grinnell was a programmer at the Bridge Theater in the Avenues when he developed his drag persona Peaches Christ and began putting on special. You know how Rocky Horror Picture Show
Oh yeah.
midnight showings are like this
Oh
big to
yeah.
do where everybody dresses up. Well, Joshua got the idea of doing that with a variety of films, and it turned into a one queen industry for Josh.
Amazing.
The great Peaches Christ, absolutely.
I think that might be my
College
favorite
together.
drag name of all. Really. I mean, you can't get better than that.
Peaches Christ.
Absolutely. And
Hey, go
oh,
ahead. I'm sorry.
just one more thing I wanted to throw out there in regards to Pride Month. There's a new documentary on Netflix about LGBTQ comedians and developing, the power and the courage to express your voice and your sexuality and who you are in comedy. And that looks to be filled with just inspiring stories and powerful stories as people, use their voice on the stage and to empower people.
Nice.
What's you have the title for me, Hal?
I will in a moment.
Okay, good for
Google
you.
it.
Well,
Yes.
San Francisco has been incredibly welcoming and nurturing to gay comedians, lesbian comedians, and I've had the good fortune to work with some of them during my time at Live 105 with Alex Bennett. And, it's part and parcel of the multicultural and kindness and openness of the city, at least theoretically speaking. While you're digging the information up, Hal, shall I get to
Yes.
some film reviews here? What do you say,
Uh,
Kim?
Yeah, I think he's got it.
by the way, it's called Outstanding, a comedy
Okay.
revolution.
Oh, good.
Outstanding.
Yeah,
Comes from Wanda Sykes and Paige Hurwitz.
Very cool.
very cool. Definitely worth watching. In what seems like a really quick turnaround from his award magnet, the feminist period horror comedy Poor Things, Greek filmmaker Yorgos Lanthimos throws a bit of a curve with Kinds of Kindness. It's a 3-story anthology film that leans on the same core group of actors in different roles for each of the segments. So you get Poor Things stars Emma Stone and Willem Dafoe, and that movie's supporting player Margaret Qualley, plus the great Jesse Plemons, Hong Chow, Joe Alwyn, and Mamadou Athie, and they all show up in multiple parts. Now, the three tales have their moments, darkly funny and or disturbing, and are rife with cynicism about the human condition. The first concerns an increasingly conflicted man whose seemingly conventional white-collar job, complete with a corporate office, and by the way, he's played by Plemons, is actually the job is actually just doing whatever his whimsical and cruel boss, played by Willem Dafoe, tells him to do, no matter how absurd or destructive. And he decides he's going to try to break the chains at some point, and that's the first story. The second story is about a cop whose missing wife, and that's Plemons and Stone. The missing wife returns after a long period away, and he begins to think she's an imposter. And the third story follows the trials of a spurned cult member, played by Stone, and she's determined to be granted re-entry to the group by finding a person with supernatural capabilities that the cult covets. Now, if you muse upon these stories long enough, maybe you'll divine connections between the individual tales, and the actors commit to the scenarios, no matter how weird. Plemons is especially top-notch, as his three wackadoodle characters, but compared to two recent Lanthimos movies that preceded it, those being Poor Things and The Favorite, Kinds of Kindness feels too long and draining to really compare with his best work. It's definitely too smart for its own good. And, it's couched in some ways as a comedy, and it's not funny enough amid the bizarre goings-on to satisfy at least this viewer. As much as I was fascinated with his early satirical sci-fi fantasy, The Lobster, I thought that was a movie that lost its way on the narrative side. And again, that's my problem here. And these are things that didn't happen with Poor Things and The Favorite. and what might be my actual favorite of his movies, The Killing of a Sacred Deer, which is the deeply twisted tale of a family in the thrall of a very dangerous young lunatic. And by the way, Lanthimos co-wrote Kinds of Kindness with Efthimis Philippou, his collaborator on The Lobster and Sacred Deer. As such, Kinds of Kindness has its moments and might be best watched in 3 installments on home video. Like The Lobster, it's a lesser work by this very creative and unique director. It's in select theaters.
Okay.
Yeah, Michael, I just looked up the runtime, 2 hours and 45 minutes. Yikes. And I love Yorgos Lanthimos, and I love his earlier work that you cited, Killing of a Sacred Deer, and I enjoy The Lobster. But man, that's a slog. That's a long movie.
It is. And, there wasn't enough of a payoff for me. And again, I bow to him, his talent, his actors. Again, Plemons is particularly good here. But yeah, to me, it's one of his lesser works. Gotcha. Here's something that was really in my sweet spot. It feels like a docudrama, and it uses the interview-studded trappings of a documentary, but The Bike Riders is a fictionalized look at the 1960s rise of the actual Chicago-based motorcycle club, the Vandals, and the group's eventual expansion and descent into a violent biker gang, one beset by power struggles. So
kind of has a James Dean look on the poster there.
Absolutely. Well, when you have Austin Butler, the king of the 21st century pout, you're going to think James Dean, aren't you?
Yeah.
And when you have, Tom Hardy, you might start thinking of Wild Ones with Marlon Brando, and I think that's quite deliberate. So there are, in this case, narrative decisions made, but The Bike Riders soars on the strength of 3 excellent performances. Tom Hardy as Johnny, the generally strong, stoic, no bullcrap founder of the Vandals. Austin Butler as handsome young swain Benny, who is mentored by Johnny. And Jodie Comer as Kathy, a fearless kind of working class Midwestern girl who falls for Benny as he does for her, and for better or worse. And that's right, The Bike Riders stars Venom, Elvis, and the serial killer Villanelle from Killing Eve. I mean, wow. And these guys are so good that you really don't think about those other roles. And as good as England's Hardy is as a Chicago tough guy Johnny, and as on point as American Butler is as true believer Benny, it's the British-born Comer who is the revelation here. She absolutely disappears into the role of Kathy. The accent, the facial expressions, and the posture are her tools for transformation, to put it lightly. Despite the male skew of the story, the riding, the partying, and the dust-ups, Kathy is the heart of the Bike Riders, providing expository narration through the device of her being interviewed about the Vandals by an ex-member turned journalist. So screenwriter director Jeff Nichols has made some pretty gritty movies prior to doing The Bike Riders. They include Take Shelter, Mud, Midnight Special, and Loving, the latter about a landmark interracial marriage case. Although Nichols doesn't seem quite so fact-adherent as he was with Loving, The Bike Riders did strike me as delivering some truth about the Vandals' evolution and the peril faced by those in the gang's thrall. And by the way, Michael Shannon, a frequent Nichols collaborator, and Norman Reedus of TV's The Walking Dead play 2 bikers affiliated with the Vandals. And Reedus may be associated with the swashbuckling motorcycling loner Daryl on The Walking Dead, but he is initially unrecognizable as a slightly unhinged California biker named Funny Sonny. Even if the narration technique slows the pace on occasion, The Bike Riders is ultimately a rip-roaring trip worth taking. How about that for the ad? And I think Comer will be remembered around awards season. The Bike Riders is in theaters.
That's awesome. They should have gone to you when they were looking for quotes for the movie poster.
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I'm not into that sort of stuff. I just want to tell you, man, it really was in my sweet spot. A friend of mine went with me and didn't respond as much as I did in a positive way. But man, wait till you see Jodie Comer in this thing. All right. How about if I lighten things up a bit When it comes to unlikely action heroes or heroines in an action movie, there could be no unlikelier one than June Squibb, the sharp and very funny 94-year-old actress and Oscar nominee for Nebraska, who has made a tidy late-in-life career playing foxy grandma types,
Awesome.
94 years old. Oh, my God. So
Wow.
I loved her in the Jack and Triumph show, which featured her as a housemate of the lovable hick Jack McBrayer and Triumph the Insult Comic Dog. It's kind of the sitcom on Comedy Central, which you should seek out. It's crazy and funny. And this canny comedy, Thelma, spices a smart, I would say caring look at issues facing the elderly with elements of a digital crime thriller. And it features Squibb as the title character, whose beloved slacker grandson, Danny, sets up her computer, but doesn't warn her about computer criminals that target the naive, such as trusting senior citizens. She's taken for thousands that she can't afford to lose. And so Thelma is determined to track down the people who ripped her off and get her money back. So to that end, she recruits Ben, an old friend of hers living at a retirement home. He's played by the great Richard Roundtree. That's right, Shaft himself, in what was his final role before passing away late last year. And he's
Oh,
so good. And while Thelma and Ben head off into adventure, Danny and his parents, Thelma's daughter Gail, played by Parker Posey, and son-in-law Alan, played by Clark Gregg, are freaking out. So Squibb and Roundtree are totally great here. And there's even a supporting role by Malcolm McDowell that's right in his wheelhouse. The whole thing is damn funny, and none of the humor, some of it taking on action movie conventions, is lowbrow or at the expense of the retirees. Josh Margolin wrote and directed this gem, apparently inspired by a real-life Thelma, his own grandmother. Of course, the real marvel here is Squibb. May she continue to entertain
yeah.
us for as long as she likes. Thelma is in theaters.
Was she acting before she hit her golden years? Or is this one of those stories where it's never too late? If you want to be a star, it's never too late to go for it.
She has been doing stuff since the 1990s.
Okay.
But when you think about it, she's 90, they say 93.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, consider when she started really rolling into her acting career.
Right, right. That's so
Wow, good
cool.
for her.
And the movie sounds great.
Mhm.
It's absolutely, of these three films, it's the one I'm going to say to you, Kim, you got to watch it. I think you're really
Okay.
going to get a kick out of it.
There
I
it is.
love it. It's on my Michael Snyder list. That's excellent.
Okay, let's move on to something a little more low key. I really appreciate the actress Julianne Nicholson. And since I first saw her in a later season of Ally McBeal, I have never missed a chance to watch her on screen. And the last major thing I saw her in was the HBO series Mayor of Easttown, where she held her own opposite Kate Winslet. So you got to have some chops to do that. And now she's the adult lead in Janet Planet, which is a mother-daughter drama set during the summer of 1991 in rural Western Massachusetts. So Nicholson plays hippie psychologist Janet Planet, that's the name she goes by, and her less than stable romantic life and her spiritual quests seem to become a bit more significant to her than the needs of her daydreaming 11-year-old daughter, Lacey. And this starts to create a subtle schism in the relationship between Janet and Lacey, which plays out with quiet intensity in Janet Planet. This is written and directed by a Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright, Annie Baker, and it has a kind of a languid quality, like an August day in a meadow. But it's a finely wrought and challenging to watch portrait of flawed people. And it is brilliantly acted by Nicholson, little Zoe Ziegler as Lacey, and the esteemed likes of Elias Koteas, Will Patton, and Sophie Okonedo. That's a very lofty trio of thespian talent for this No Frills project. And perhaps it's not for everyone, but I enjoyed Janet Planet, the movie, not the questionably self-absorbed woman. It is in select theaters.
Okay. That
Yeah,
sounds
I
good.
absolutely. I enjoyed her performance as well in Mayor of Easttown, and yeah, you whet my appetite here.
Yeah, good. Let's get down and dirty. Russell Crowe. All you have to do is say Russell Crowe, and you know you're getting down and dirty.
You've already got me. That's all you need to say.
Okay, Crowe was the Pope's exorcist in the okay horror movie of the same name from last year. This year in The Exorcism, he's Anthony Miller, Tony to his friends and intimates, although they are apparently in short supply. He's a troubled actor, post rehab, and playing an exorcist in a new horror film that smacks an awful lot of another movie with a similar name. In fact, just change one letter in the title, The Exorcism, and you might be able to guess the name of the franchise starter that this movie apes. Anyway, as The Exorcism plays out, you get the feeling that this Crow character should probably call on the character he played in The Pope's Exorcist, because there is something wrong with the movie set where Tony is working, and there's something wrong with Tony. Has anyone ever performed an exorcism on himself? I'm just not really sure. But anyway, Tony's alienated teen daughter is pissed at him. The director of the movie within a movie, a guy played by Adam Goldberg, is pissed at him for losing it during the shoot. And the priest who's consulting on the movie is skeptical that there is anything really demonic at work here until, well, you know. Anyway, the idea of a haunted movie shoot is intriguing, and Crow is fun to watch at first. Plus, David Hyde Pierce, that's right, Niles Crane from Frasier, seems to be having a good time as the somewhat cool priest. But the movie slowly becomes more and more shrug-worthy, and the final act of the thing falls apart. You know, somebody definitely needed an exorcist here, and it's probably the people who greenlit this. It is in theaters.
So you didn't like it?
Not particularly, no.
That's a no-go.
I gotta wrap things up with something from overseas, and really an important and worthwhile film. Will you indulge me for a minute?
Oh, yeah, please.
Okay. It's lengthy but insightful. It's compelling, it's disturbing, and very worthwhile. It's Green Border, the latest movie from the ambitious and astute Polish director Agnieszka Holland, who did Europa Europa and In Darkness, among other things. I think she was Oscar nominated for Europa Europa. In this, Green Border, Holland, who co-wrote the screenplay, casts her lens on the trials, tribulations, and life-threatening circumstances that are faced by refugees from the Middle East and Africa who are trying to cross a rough, swampy, wooded border from Belarus to the purportedly safe harbor of European Union member Poland. Only the border guards on both sides ping-pong these desperate people back and forth, fueled by racism and xenophobia, even as activists try their very, very best within the strictures of the law to protect the asylum seekers. We see the situation from all sides, the refugees, the guards, the activists, and even one Polish woman who gets caught up in the refugees' struggle. Green Border is powerful stuff. It's in a variety of languages. There's a little English, but, you know, you're going to have to read subtitles. It was very, very, very good. It's in select theaters, and it will be streaming in August, Green Border.
Usually you talk about streaming, and this is something I'm really interested in seeing, so I really want to know what you have to say about it, even though I know our time is short. Did you see House of the Dragon?
Yeah, I watched season 1 of House of the Dragon, and I really got on board with it. It is a prequel to Game of Thrones, based on the George R.R. Martin books, and it shows how the Targaryens, those white-haired freaks, had control of the Iron Throne, and it's all about the court intrigue during that period in Westeros, and it stars one of my favorite actors, Rada-educated former Doctor Who star Matt Smith, as a conniving Targaryen trying to do his best to be a power broker in this dragon-infested time. Game of Thrones was all about, bringing the dragons back. In this particular show, House of the Dragon, on Series 2, second episode runs this coming Sunday. Dragons are everywhere, and people are riding them, and there are air and sea battles and court intrigue. Two young would-be queens of the realm are kind of competing with one another, and their offspring are also battling for control of the Iron Throne. The question is, who gets, all the power? And I'm thoroughly caught up in it.
Awesome. Okay, a recap. Kinds of Kindness. You said too long, not funny enough. It has its moments, but it's not enough of a payoff. Thelma, you said it's damn funny and not at the expense of retirees either. You told me to watch it, and I'm going to take you up on that. Janet Planet, not for everyone, you said, but you enjoyed it. The Exorcism, despite Russell Crowe, you say it's a no-go. Green Border, lengthy but insightful and powerful, according to Michael Snyder. And House of the Dragon, streaming, you give it a yes.
And the Bike Riders, I thought was also really my kind of movie, really good.
Oh, that's right.
Vroom,
You called
vroom.
that one a rip-roaring trip worth taking.
Yeah, and you spoke highly of Jodie Comer. She was one of the best things in that movie, the Ridley Scott film, The Last Duel. I thought her performance in that was really stellar in that film that really underwhelmed at the box office.
She's the real deal. Absolutely. She was
Yeah.
also the best thing about that Ryan Reynolds fantasy about a guy trapped in a video game. She was also,
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
I can't
Free
remember
Guy.
the name of it. I
Free Guy.
blocked the name. Anyway, I have to say that she's a real, like, she pulls a real Michelle Williams here. You know, she's coming out of television initially, and oh, wow, she is seriously talented.
Michael
Absolutely.
Snyder, thank you for the great recommendations and for coming on this Friday, for all the work that you've done, watching all this stuff. I know it's just, so hard for you all week to watch all these movies and have so much fun and eat so much popcorn.
No. I have to prop my eyeballs open. I do. I really have to. I can't be. It's not that easy, Kim. Don't be making light of my struggle.
It sounds easy, but we know that you come at it with a keen eye. Michael Snyder, thank you. He comes and goes on a rainbow.
This may be futile, but go Giants and R.I.P. Willie Mays.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell, you'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.